Welcome to this panel. It was in May 2020 in my office. I work at the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency. And I was the only one in the office, obviously. That was the peak period of COVID. And there was a lady that came, introduced herself as a lawyer, and she said she wanted to report a case of assault. I probed, and then she said it was her boss who happened to be the managing partner of the law firm, that had slapped her. So I wanted to know what led to the slap. And so she said she had been in that law practice for 5 years, and this person had been harassing her. It started with innuendos, sexual innuendos, and unwelcome messages that were being sent to her phone. Unfortunately for her, her husband had seen some of those messages, and so he started accusing her of adultery. That fateful day, she said they had finished a meeting, and the partner asked her to wait behind. He made a comment commending her for her interventions, and then started approaching her. As he began approaching her, he made a comment about her bosom, and before she could say anything, he had touched her chest. Her immediate response to that was insulting him, and then he slapped her. So she was in my office. Obviously, she's reporting a case of sexual harassment. She's reporting physical abuse, and her marriage is on the rocks because her husband is saying that she's having extramarital affairs with her boss. We're talking about the road less traveled, bullying and sexual harassment in the workplace. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. To put the conversation in context, I would like to say that in reality, the employer actually owes the employee a duty to provide a safe workplace that is physically and mentally safe. Now, those duties arise from common law and statutes. So by common law, there's an implied term of trust and confidence in every employment contract. So the implied trust is that you would treat me well and provide a safe place of work for me from that side of the employee. But on the side of the employer, it means that you will devote your time to doing the work properly. So there's that implied terms of trust and confidence. But having said that, just to throw a bit of numbers around this untraveled road, which for me is bullying and sexual harassment, I truly agree. In a recent survey carried out by the Trade Union Congress in the UK, they found out that 3 out of 9 workers were bullied or sexually harassed in the workplace. Again, what we struggle with in Nigeria is data. So there's hardly any data in Nigeria with regards to bullying. But if you go back to the IBA research in 2019, which I was happy to be part of, you would see that out of every 10 employees in the legal profession, 3 had been bullied. And of that statistics, 2 of the bullied people were women and 1 was a man. Then when it comes to sexual harassment, 3 women in the legal profession had been sexually harassed, and 14 men, 1 in 14 men had been sexually harassed. Looking at those figures, it actually signposed the importance of what the NBA Women Forum had done. And I must say a big thank you to the NBA Women Forum and for Shade and her team for drafting that policy. So over time, we as a people, we have normalized toxicity. We have normalized some certain kind of attributes like you can't leave the office until the boss leaves. We have normalized sending associates to go and buy rice. Or, I heard the story of an associate who was actually a beauty supervisor at the site of his boss's house. So these are cultural and attitudinal issues that has helped to enable the culture of bullying and sexual harassment. So the beauty of this policy is the fact that for once, there is a document that clearly stipulates what is sexual harassment. And in this case, it has then benchmarked it against sections of the National Industrial Code Rules of Procedure of 2017, which clearly defines what is sexual harassment. It also signposted against the ILO Convention 190 on violence and sexual harassment in the workplace, and as well as the Criminal Code of Lagos State. So you have a composite document that clearly defines what is sexual harassment. And what the NBA Women Forum have done is to develop that policy and try to say, let's implement this as a template for organizations, really in the legal profession, to take and run with. I mean, when I talk about enablers of sexual harassment, one of the biggest enablers is our culture and the way we are all brought up. So, for those of us born in the 70s and the 80s, and you grew up waiting till 4 o'clock to watch TV, you first see the color bars and national anthem and all that. Most of us grew up not being taught how to question the status quo. We just accepted things and ran with it. So I'll give you a personal story. I was lucky. I grew up in a family where you must question and ask questions. You must challenge things. And so I remember I think that was my first advocacy for women and sexual harassment. So my immediate elder sister was 2 years older than me. I think I was 9 then. We had just lost our dad. And then we traveled to Benin for the funeral. My mom and my siblings went out and left just me and my sister at home. And then an uncle, who I know very well, came in and said, Omo, my wife, come and sit on my laps. Something didn't sit right with me. And I said, 9-year-old boy, I look at him and I say, Uncle Igalo, she's not your wife, that's my sister. I know Auntie Ojo, your wife. Have you divorced her? He told me, shut up there, I'll beat you. I said, Uncle, why will you beat me? My sister is not your wife. And then he stomped off. Good thing my mom came in about an hour after. I will explain to her. You don't want to know what happened, but I can tell you that we never saw Uncle Igalo again. Not in Lagos, not in Benin. So I think back again. What if on that day my mom did not believe what me and my sister had said? So what then happens is you then create a culture of silence, which is what is killing us. So that culture of bringing up people not to speak up is a big issue. And I'm happy to Lakmo dealt with it in saying that we must have a channel to speak up and address this issue. So in trying to implement the policy, what we then did was to look at an aspect of that policy which created an exception of cultural nuances or social acceptable standards. And the issue was, what is acceptable in my culture might not be acceptable in the next culture. So if you create that exception, then you're already creating a problem. As long as the policy has defined what sexual harassment is, then let's run with that. Leave the issue of exception. And so that was one of the things I've taken out. But in trying to implement it, we've set out a couple of issues that must be done. And one of the key things we've mentioned there is that there must be awareness. There must be advocacy. And then we must look for critical law firms to champion these policies. And the idea is to ensure that everybody signs up to this policy. As it is, it's a policy, it's not a statute. So it's for everybody to sign up to this policy, and then we can take it from there. One of the other issues we've also talked about was having a whistleblowing policy and a channel of reporting which is independent of your firm. So you are then assured that whatever you report will be dealt with and investigated. So I think I'll leave it at that and let others speak.